Tokyo Game Show was it last week?
Well,
it's previous week.
Yeah, but there's some news that's still kind of trickling in because like they had the
translators are just slow.
Well, the translators, but they also had the demo for the Bloodborne DLC.
Yeah.
Wasn't until yesterday.
Odd.
Or Saturday.
We film on Sunday. Yeah. That's odd. So that was on Saturday, but the Tokyo Game Show I thought was the previous weekend.
I thought so too. Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe it's during the week and Saturdays. I don't know. I just know I talked to
because some of the IGN guys are still there.
Okay.
So
maybe we'll have to look that up. We didn't look that up. I was talking to my friend Redbeard, who's if you haven't checked him out, Redbeard TV on YouTube. He's talking about the PlayStation VR, and he got to try it out. They had a GameStop convention that was a few weeks back, and he got to try. Well, his wife got to try it out. He got to try it a little bit, but he's having he just had some hip surgery, so he didn't get to do it full on. Mm-hmm. But it looks amazing. They really sold me on. Yeah, they've sold me on that product. At first, I thought, okay, well, it may be okay, it may be something, but yeah, I think it's actually going to be really, really cool to see that. VR is back.
Yes.
And we are back. Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin.
And so some interesting things did happen this past week. Last week was this past week. The previous week we had a Nintendo regime change. This week, Konami officially has said they don't want our money anymore.
Not officially.
Okay, sorry, not officially. They unofficially do not want my money anymore.
Yes.
There's a industry term for, and this is every industry, for a whale. A whale is someone who consistently buys a lot of whatever it is. Video games, movies, whatever that is. That's your demographic that is going to buy every single time, every week or so they're buying a new video game. Every week or so they're going to the movies. Whatever their thing is, that's what they do. That's what they pour all their money into. And mobile gaming, you don't get. You have a very different type of whale in that, as opposed to proper console gaming or PC gaming or anything like that. You have a handful of people who will spend a lot of money, as opposed to a ton of people who will spend $60, not even thinking about it, on a video game, even a bad one like Resident Evil 6. And yeah, Konami has unofficially said they are going to move towards mobile, except for, what was it? The
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Because that's one that people, again, going back to, they'll buy it every time it comes out. And then they also have microtransactions and DLC in there where you can get roster updates and the players and things like that.
Yeah.
And the whale is something, because like, I don't know the first time that I ever encountered a game where I logged in, I started the game, just looking at it, see what it is, and then I see a purchase in this free mobile game for more than $10, because it started with 99-cent transactions.
Which is easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to justify.
I'll spend 99 cents on a thing. Or like the one that I play right now, the only one that I play right now, is Fallout Shelter. And every once in a while they'll be like, hey, you can get 5 of our things for $1.99. And I'm like, I'm enjoying this game.
Do you want 5 Mr. Handies? Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
And those are reasonably priced items in a game that I'm enjoying and doesn't like shove that at me every 10 seconds. But then you encounter a game where they have this $40 purchase and this $60, their bonus $99, you're getting 50% of it free, and I'm like, but your game's okay, but like to spend money to skip things, that's one of the things that seems for me arbitrary. And if it's arbitrary, then it's not part of the game as it was designed. It's something that they decided, hey, here's where we think you'll get frustrated and you'll be willing to want to pay to skip this.
Which,
and that's...
I agree. Which I've got a lot to say about that. I think let's move that whole conversation to towards the end in our main chunk.
Yeah, because apparently we're not doing that now. I thought we were.
We can do it either way. So Bloodborne DLC is finally announced.
Yeah.
So it looks, from what I've seen, it looks like that's going to be essentially the story leading up to what we've done, right?
No, it will be sometime in the past because the boss that they've announced is Ludwig.
Yeah.
And so you encounter his holy blade, a few of his artifacts in the game proper. My theory is that this is going to be the events leading up to the burning of Old Yharnam. Just based on stuff that I've seen and my understanding currently of the lore, because that's always changing. But the old hunters, I'm hoping that we'll run into a couple of the originals, because there are a number of people whose weapons and items you find later on that are now these holy relics. But this is the burning of Old Yharnam is, not to get too deep into it, because I could, and we will in a future episode.
We will.
We will have a spoiler cast in Bloodborne as soon as I've beaten the damn thing. But yeah, so there's a lot of this lore that's been built up around the burning of Old Yharnam, and Bloodborne Old Hunters is going to be some of the original hunters, the first few who went after the monsters and the clerics and such from that era.
So Gehrman and Ludwig and all of that.
Yeah, and
which would be really cool.
And like the main thing for me is it's more to explore. Because like the bosses, that's a cool thing. The lore is amazing. But my favorite thing is the exploration and the going around every corner, suspecting that something's just about to jump out and kill me. That's the kind of tension that game brings that is actually somewhat reminiscent of like the original Resident Evil, because they didn't have a monster jumping at you every 10 minutes or every half a second like they do now. But like I think everyone from our era remembers when from Resident Evil 2 that hallway,
the lurker, the liquor,
and because there was a build up to it, and you felt something was coming, but you had no idea what it was, and then all of a sudden you have this thing thrust at you that you've never seen before, that is objectively terrifying. It has long reach and all these things that you wouldn't think, and that kind of excitement and the thrill of that moment is,
and not being equipped for it at all.
No, you're not prepared for that moment in game or out of game, and that's.
I still had just the handgun. I think that's all you have at that point. I haven't played it in a couple of years, but I just had just the handgun, and it's something that people don't realize now. Bloodborne has brought it back to the idea of there are some times when you just need to run, and a lot of people are used to just mowing through enemies in games, and you can't do that always. Sometimes that's not the best choice. That's not the best strategy. And Bloodborne kind of brings it back to a time where you had to think about exactly how you're going to take on everything, how you're going to go through and navigate and not get killed, and resource management. That also people are used to just getting ammo and health packs just regularly, and if you're doing well, you see ammo and health packs you don't even need. They're put on there way too much, as opposed to if you're not doing the game properly, you need to backtrack. You need to do something to heal yourself. So something we don't see a lot anymore. Bloodborne does that, and I'm excited to see it. So it's November, right? Is what they're shooting for?
Yes, November 20-something.
Yeah, which will be fantastic. I was hoping it'd be this year. That coincides with Fallout. So
just like 2 weeks after Fallout. Yes,
I'll be playing Fallout. but I'll probably play a little Bloodborne to try this out. And finish it up so we can have a discussion after that. We'll have a Bloodborne proper discussion before the end of the year, before that.
Yes.
And then we'll go on to DLC. One other thing that has been speculated regarding Japan, because we're talking about the Tokyo Game Show, that you mentioned was PlayStation possibly dropping the price.
Well, in Japan, PlayStation has now dropped the price by about 10% or so.
Yeah.
And so we think that this is something that indicates their future plans, because Tokyo Game Show is, they have a focus on the Tokyo market, and frankly that market has not done as well on PlayStation 4 as they'd hoped. Mobile and portable continues to be the primary thing there. There's less people playing console games, but
the Vita's still a thing, though. The Vita's still a thing there.
It is. And so my theory, at least, is that this holiday season, I think that they'll probably drop the price here. It's been about 2 years, and historically that's about the time that they start eyeing that kind of thing. Microsoft dropped it last November. Yeah. And so that's been a thing for a while, and Sony's counteroffer was bundles. And they've continued to offer those. Those are out, and they exist.
But now Microsoft is doing bundles and that price drop. You can get 2 or 3 games and the Xbox One for that price. And Sony's still just done the single game bundled with it, which it's still a fantastic product. But
going back to something we talked about last week, they don't have anything like they have the Uncharted collection.
Yeah.
But they don't have a big, powerful thing coming out.
And you're not going to sell a lot of new consoles with collections. People didn't buy the Xbox One to get the Master Chief Collection. Master Chief Collection is great, but you're getting people who already purchased it or want to go through the entire series and hadn't yet. But that's not a console seller. That's not a console seller, which I'm curious to see what really takes it this fall and winter, because obviously it's going to be Xbox is going to dominate in regards to exclusive games, because PlayStation doesn't have any, which is a strange slump. But we'll see what happens on that. I still stand by. I think Microsoft is going to completely push over through the lead through the holiday. But even then, I don't think it's going to stop the attrition that they've been dealing with. They've still been selling well. This console generation is actually the highest selling console generation ever in the amount of time, which is phenomenal. When you have all these people who are saying, "Oh, well, these things are underpowered. These things should be so much better compared to PCs." They're still selling considerably, and their architecture as well as their games are great. And I think that people also don't realize, when you look, this is 2 years into this gen, and 2 years into Xbox 360 looked completely different than the way Xbox 360 looks now. There are so many updates that go through in regards to not only the layout, but in regards to how games run. We're gonna see them games perform even better than they are right now, which Metal Gear and Mad Max and some other games are just gorgeous. And if you look at them on PC versus on console, there are differences, but it's pretty subtle. It's pretty subtle. It used to be there was a huge difference. And go ahead and blow me up in the comments on that, because they're very similar now. They're so closer than they've ever been. Where the PC master race thing, it's you're paying a lot more for it being a little bit better, and it is elite, and there are some amazing graphics that console gamers miss out on, but it's not that big of a for the amount of money for a $2,000, $3,000 $2,000 now, maybe $2,000, $2,500 to get a gaming rig that's going to be able to show you that, as opposed to $400.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, we're not going to belabor the point, but but that's the thing. And for the record, going back to the price drop, Phil Spencer of Xbox, which, hey Phil, because I know you're watching, he agrees with me, and he says that, you know, this is a thing that Sony's going to do. Obviously, the Sony execs can't say anything about it because they're paid not to. And so yeah. Then next up we have Konami retiring.
We already did that.
Okay.
But Konami's basically retired from making proper games right after the best game I've played in probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. It has blown past. Metal Gear Solid has met my expectations and then some. A lot of people have been debating, do you go into playing this game if you haven't played the others, games in the series. This takes place in 1985, so you're only missing the story from like 2 or 3 of the games, arguably the third game. You're missing the game of 2 out of the 7 or 8 games in the series.
But the answer in short is yes. Just get it and play it.
Get it and play it. A lot of the subtleties. Someone on Kind of Funny mentioned that this is like the episode 1. I don't know if you saw this. They described Metal Gear, and this is a fantastic. Metal Gear Solid 5 is like episode 1 from Star Wars. It has all these characters that are going to do something at one point, but it doesn't matter right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what Revolver Ocelot's going to do later on. It doesn't matter who Naked Snake becomes later on. Solid Snake's not even in this. Just play the game. It doesn't matter. You're going to get so much out of this game in regards to gameplay, the subtlety of the story, and what it is going to lead up to. You're going to appreciate those games more, in my opinion.
So if you enjoyed Star Wars Episode 1,
yes,
pick up Metal Gear Solid 5.
Because they're exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Jar Jar's in there and everything. Yeah. And he breathes through his skin.
But Jar Jar's not in The Witness.
No, Jar Jar is not in The Witness.
Jonathan Blow of Braid and various critically acclaimed games. That game has they have a release date announced now, which is going to be January 26th of next year. And this is a puzzly game. So that's you.
The puzzly game?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really like puzzles.
I love puzzle games. I like games that are puzzle games disguised as adventure games. That's always fun to me. Just a straight up puzzle game is okay. But they're like Zelda, Legend of Zelda. That's a puzzle game disguised as an adventure game. That's my opinion on it.
Okay. It has puzzles.
It has puzzles.
There's a difference.
And that's all right. We can talk about that later. Yes. So the one thing that I like, everything that I've seen about it looks great. And what I'm really excited about in the fact that that's news, the fact that this indie developer is coming out with a new game is such a big deal, and that we're gonna get it on pretty much every console we want. Right? That's from what I saw. Right?
That I don't know.
So, yeah. PlayStation, Windows OS. So at least PlayStation for now. I'm gonna guess that's gonna hit Xbox One and everything. The fact that indie games are coming out like that, and I was actually gonna mention that this is, I think, the previous generation of gaming. If you quantify what it will be known for, in my opinion, that generation will be known for its sequels. That was in my opinion, it's the first generation where if you had a successful game, you have sequel. It's what we're doing with movies right now. Sequels and reboots. Right now, we've got some reboots, but the big thing that's going on with this current console generation, which I think is beautiful, is the indie games. We had indie games a little bit in the 360 and the PS3 era.
Well, they had the Summer of Arcade and XBLA started. That was the opening of, because like the PlayStation 3 didn't go online when it the PlayStation Store was run through a console window. Yeah. Because that was not a terrible idea on anyone's part. Yeah. But so they started then, but these consoles were designed around the idea of, hey, people can make their games, and bring them here.
Yeah.
Please play our games. Play games here.
Yeah.
And it's important for them to attract and promote these games, because like one of the best games for PlayStation at launch was Resogun.
Yeah.
Which is by Housemarque, which is a phenomenal independent developer. And Housemarque, Sony published it, but they didn't really need a publisher.
No.
And so the dynamic has shifted substantially from the last generation to this, because on PS3 and Xbox 360, you still needed a developer. And Microsoft and Sony realized we don't need to have barriers between us and them. Yeah. And it's just more open. Yeah, the idea of scouting to get the right publisher and getting it going, it's kind of like how ebooks are now, which is really, and music is now. It's really oversaturated the market to an extent. But if you have a really good product, and you can get, and some of my favorite games that I've been playing, like on PS4 and Xbox, have been the indie games. One of the free games this month was Dear God on Xbox One, and which I didn't. I'll be honest. It took me a minute to get the connotation of like, it's a dear God, but it's also dear God, and it's see what you did there.
Yeah, and it's more time than I've put into a small indie game in regards to Dear God and Rocket League. Rocket League, if I'm sitting down and I say, okay, I've only got 20 or 30 minutes to play a game, 20 or 30 minutes doesn't do that for me in Bloodborne. It doesn't do it for Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid, that may be my first 3 or 4 failed attempts at a mission.
But I learned some stuff.
I learned something, and if you guys have watched the stream, you can laugh at that, because I'm really good at some things and I'm horrible at most things in that game. But if I'm saying, okay, I've got 20 minutes or 30 minutes before I have to leave and I want to play a game, I can pick up my Vita and I can play Trials, or there's a new one on the, I keep wanting to say Man of La Mancha. It's the new one, the Vita platform where you have the whip.
La Mulana.
Don't.
Just don't.
It's okay.
It's not. It's bad.
But yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the wrap up at the end of the month, because it's got some redeeming qualities. But if I've got 20 or 30 minutes to pick up something, I will play Rocket League, and it's a 5-minute match, which it's sports, so that means it's actually about 7 minutes. But 7 minutes, so I can play
the highlights.
I can play highlights and the countdown and all that. So it all adds up. So I think that this generation is going to be known for that. I know you had Journey and other games on PS3, which were phenomenal, but the amount of people who are getting these indie games, and not only getting the indie games, but the PlayStation Plus and the Xbox Live free games, getting people to play these games, getting people used to gaming doesn't have to be a $60 game that's going to take the next 4 months of your life if you beat it, or if it's Call of Duty, the next 6 hours of your life, and then if you want to play multiplayer, you can play multiplayer. Getting people to understand, no, there are these $5, $10, $20 games which are amazing. They're worth that. Some aren't quite worth what they're charging, but it's created a new market that people didn't know was out there. The hardcore gamers knew it was out there. The casual gamers didn't know as much. It's like, if it's not Nintendo, then why am I playing it, or whatever? So I'm really excited about that. When I saw The Witness was being announced, yeah, really excited about it. Another one that is really big is Five Nights at Freddy's, and that's a single guy. I'm sure he's got people helping him, but an indie game that's completely taken off. He's going to do that was the other thing I was going to mention that was announced this past week. Five Nights at Freddy's. They had 4 of them. The next one is going to be an RPG, and I'm confused. Really confused.
As well you should be.
I'm really confused on that. The story already has problems. There's a story. There's a story if you've gone into it, but the story has too many problems, and I don't know how that's going to be as an RPG. I think that transition is going to just bomb. I think it's going to lose all. We'll see what happens, though. Another bit of news was Star Fox.
Yes, Star Fox has been pushed to the nebulous 2016.
Yes, somewhere in there.
So, so Microsoft, for the first time possibly ever, has all the exclusives for a holiday season because Sony doesn't have anything coming out.
Yeah,
and this was the last, like, Mario Maker.
The last big
Mario Maker was the last like big. You know, everybody wants to play it for one specific console, and now there's a bunch of big games coming out this holiday season. But as far as exclusives, Xbox has the exclusives.
Yes, they do.
And
Nintendo has, I think, 2 games coming out, but they're not console sellers. They're not console sellers at all, in my opinion. Star Fox would have been a console seller. Mario Maker, maybe. I want to see what happens on the sales of that. But then again, I think a lot of people who, I think the majority of people who want Star Fox, the majority of people who want Mario Maker, bought their Wii U.
Yeah,
I think they have. I think that the problem is that those people have Wii U's. How do you get people who have one console, who are going to spend their money only on one console? How do you get them to do it? And they're the people who wanted just Nintendo got just Nintendo. The people who want multiples have gotten multiples. There are people who are still waiting, but for the most part, I don't think it's. I didn't see the sales numbers yet, but I'd be really surprised if there was a huge spike at Mario Maker. Mario Maker's fantastic. It
really is. Yeah,
but I would be really surprised if there was a spike. So tell me in the comments if you've seen there's a spike or anything going on that. But it saddens me because everything that I've seen on Star Fox looked really, really fun, and I wanted to play it this holiday. There are certain games when I think of holiday games that come around that time. I guess it's just the nostalgia in me. I think of these happier, not necessarily happier, but not necessarily more casual, but just a game that I can put on and just smile and just dig into and I don't do that with Bloodborne. I'm not gonna do that with Fallout.
Bloodborne, smiling not included.
I curse more on that. And Metal Gear, I smiled last night or yesterday. I got Quiet. I don't know if you've seen Quiet on Metal Gear, which I'm considering cosplaying as.
All right,
because it's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I don't care, Kojima. It's ridiculous. But that was one of the first times that I smiled in that game because the rest of the game is it's frustrating. You have some interesting bits, and beating her as a boss was really cool. But that's just like one little moment of almost this cathartic release, as opposed to playing. Even Rocket League is frustrating, but Star Fox, I mean, just this excitement that's involved, or something like that. Star Fox 64 has that.
You get to do a barrel roll.
You get to do a barrel roll. Star Fox 64 had that, and the new Star Fox really looks like it has that. Anything that Miyamoto puts his name on has that, and I love that, and I want him to keep doing that. So hopefully he does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the news that we have for this week.
Yep.
And our opinions on said news. So let us know your opinion on the news, and
talk about it in the comments. Let us know what you think.
And we're still a fairly small channel, so we can respond to all of that. I can put my personal guarantee on this.
Yeah.
That if you comment, we will respond.
Yeah. We will. One of us will respond. Both of us might respond. Who knows? Give us tips, suggestions, anything like that. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.